The storm hit like a freight train, rattling the windows of the old Victorian house on Elm Street in small-town Ohio, where the cornfields stretched out like forgotten promises under a bruised sky. Eric Harper stood frozen in the doorway of his childhood bedroom, heart slamming against his ribs as Jackson Reed, tall, broad-shouldered, with that same crooked grin that had once made summers unbearable, tossed his duffel bag onto the queen-sized bed they'd shared as kids during sleepovers that felt like eternity. "Missed this place?" Jackson said, his voice low and gravelly from years of city smoke and bar fights in Chicago. But it was the way his eyes lingered on Eric, dark and unreadable, that cracked something deep inside. In that suspended breath, as thunder boomed like a judgment from God, Eric knew. One night under this roof, with the man who'd shaped every secret corner of his soul, and nothing would ever be the same. Eric wiped his palms on his jeans, the denim worn thin from too many shifts at the local garage, where oil stains clung like regrets. It had been 8 years since Jackson left for Northwestern on a football scholarship, trading hay bales and Friday night bonfires for frat parties and a degree in business that landed him a slick job pushing real estate in the Windy City. Eric stayed put, of course, rooted here in Milford like the ancient oaks lining Main Street, fixing carburetors and dodging his mom's questions about why he hadn't dated that nice girl from the diner yet. Gay in a town where faggot was still whispered behind cupped hands at the VFW hall wasn't a coming-out story. It was survival, quiet and buried under layers of flannel and forced smiles. But Jackson had always been the sun, golden, effortless, pulling everyone into his orbit without trying. They'd grown up next door, knees scraped from racing bikes down gravel roads, sharing stolen sips of beer behind the bleachers during high school pep rallies. Eric remembered the first time he knew, really knew. 13 years old, summer heat thick as molasses, Jackson shirtless and laughing as they wrestled in the creek, water sluicing over sun-kissed skin. Eric's body had betrayed him then, a rush of heat that wasn't just the humidity, and he'd bolted home, pretending it was a cramp. Jackson never noticed, or if he did, he chalked it up to boy stuff. Straight as an arrow, Jackson was girls hanging off him like vines by senior year, prom king with Sarah Klein on his arm, while Eric nursed crushes in silence, doodling their initials in the margins of his algebra notebook. Now, here they were, 28 and pretending the years hadn't carved canyons between them. Jackson's visit was a fluke, or so he claimed. A client meeting in Cleveland derailed by the storm, no flights out till morning. Figured I'd crash here instead of some Fleabag motel. He texted that afternoon, and Eric's thumbs had hovered over the reply for 10 minutes before typing doors open. Stupid, hopeful, as if proximity could rewrite history. They settled into an awkward rhythm over takeout pizza from Gino's. Extra pepperoni, just like old times. Sprawled on the living room couch with the TV flickering some forgettable cop show. The house was empty. Mom was visiting Aunt Rita in Toledo. Dad long gone to a heart attack that left the garage to Eric and a stack of bills that never ended. Jackson stretched out, boots kicked off, socked feet brushing Eric's thigh accidentally on purpose. God, this couch is still lumpy as hell. Remember when we'd fight over the remote and end up on the floor? Eric forced a laugh, throat tight. Yeah, you always won. Cheater. His eyes flicked to Jackson's profile, the strong jaw shadowed with stubble, the faint scar above his eyebrow from that dumbass tree-climbing dare when they were 10. Up close, Jackson smelled like leather and rain, a cologne that probably cost more than Eric's weekly paycheck. It stirred something primal, an ache low in his gut that he drowned with a swig of Bud Light. Talk turned easy, then, like slipping into a well-worn glove. Jackson griped about his ex, Lisa, high-maintenance lawyer who'd bailed after he wouldn't commit to a ring. Said I was too rootless. Like, what the hell does that even mean? I got a condo, a 401k. I'm solid. He cracked his knuckles, a habit from stress. Eric nodded, biting back the urge to say you've always been solid. Too solid for this town, for me. Instead, plenty of fish, man. You'll land on your feet. Jackson's gaze sharpened. Beer bottle paused mid-sip. What about you? Still single? Mom said something about you turning down that teacher chick. Heat crept up Eric's neck. Small-town gossip traveled faster than the interstates. Not my type. Work keeps me busy. The truth was a ghost in the room, hovering between them. Eric's Grindr app deleted after too many ghostings from guys in Columbus who wanted quick hookups but not the baggage of a mechanic from nowhere. He'd tried once, 2 years back, with a visiting professor at the library fundraiser. Stolen kisses in the parking lot, hands fumbling under stars. But the guy split town without a number, leaving Eric hollow. The storm picked up, wind howling like a banshee, and Jackson drained his beer. "Wanna hit the hay? That guest room's probably Cobweb City." Eric's pulse stuttered. "Actually, it's a mess. Pipes froze last winter, haven't fixed it yet. You can take my room. I'll crash on the couch." Jackson waved it off. "Nah, we shared worse back in the day. Bed's big enough." His grin was boyish, disarming, and Eric's resolve crumbled like dry creek bed. Upstairs, the bedroom was a time capsule. Faded posters of the Reds and Springsteen on the walls, Eric's old guitar gathering dust in the corner. They stripped to boxers, muscle memory from 1,000 sleepovers, and slid under the covers, the mattress dipping under their weight. Eric lay rigid on his side, facing the wall, every nerve alive to Jackson's breathing, steady and close. The rain pattered a lullaby, but sleep was a joke. "Eric." Jackson's voice cut the dark, soft as confession. "Yeah. You ever think about us back then?" Eric's heart seized. He rolled over slowly, moonlight slicing through the blinds to illuminate Jackson's face. Vulnerable, stripped of the bravado. "All the time," he admitted, the words slipping out like a dam breaking. "Every damn day." Jackson reached out, fingers brushing Eric's arm, tentative as a question. Then bolder. He closed the gap, lips crashing against Eric's in a kiss that tasted of salt and storm and 15 years of what-ifs. Eric gasped into it, hands fisting in Jackson's hair, the world narrowing to this. Heat, hunger, home. They moved like they'd rehearsed it in dreams. Bodies tangling, breaths mingling. Jackson's whispers rough against Eric's skin. "I've wanted this. God, Eric, I've wanted you." It was messy, fervent, a release of pent-up rivers. Jackson's hands mapped Eric's scars, the faded burn from a welding torch, the freckles across his chest, like treasures. Eric arched, lost in the revelation that Jackson's straight-laced life had cracks, too, that under the suits and success, he'd questioned, wondered, buried his own confusions in women and work. They crested together, the bed creaking like thunder, and afterward, curled sweat slick, Jackson murmured, "This doesn't change anything, right? We're good." Eric's chest ached, but he nodded into the pillow. "We're good. Lies we tell to keep the night from shattering." Dawn crept in gray and guilty. Jackson was up first, humming in the shower, and Eric lay there, staring at the ceiling fan's lazy spin, replaying every touch. Breakfast was eggs and coffee, casual as if they hadn't rewritten their stars hours before. "Flight's at noon," Jackson said, checking his phone. "Thanks for the save, man. Last night. Yeah. Let's do this again soon." Eric managed to smile, throat raw. "Drive safe." The hug at the door was brief, brotherly, but Jackson's eyes held a promise or a warning. As the truck's taillights faded down Elm Street, Eric sank onto the porch steps, the rain-scented air heavy with what they'd unleashed. Changed everything? Hell, it had just begun. Weeks blurred into a haze of routine for Eric, grease under his nails, the hum of the shop's fluorescent lights, small talk with Old Man Hargrove about the Browns' slim playoff chances. But Jackson lingered like a bruise, tender and insistent. A text here, "Missed the creek already." A photo there, "Chicago skyline at dusk," captioned, "Wish you were seeing this." Eric's replies were cautious, laced with emojis to mask the pull in his chest. He'd scroll through old albums on rainy nights, fingers tracing scans of Polaroids, two boys with gap-toothed grins, arms slung around each other at the county fair, cotton candy smeared on cheeks. What now? Friends with benefits across state lines? Or something more fragile as spun glass? The call came on a Friday, engine oil still sharp in his nostrils as he balanced the phone on his shoulder. "Hey, it's me." Jackson's voice was tight, edged with static from the L train rumbling by. "Listen, I told Lisa about us. The night." Eric's wrench slipped, clanging against the fender of a rusted Ford. "You what?" The shop emptied out early on Fridays, but Hargrove's stare burned from the office door. Eric waved him off, ducking into the break room, heart jackhammering. "Not everything," Jackson rushed. Just that I hooked up with a guy. Testing the waters, you know? She flipped. Called me every name in the book, closet case, liar. We're done officially. Pause heavy as lead. But it felt right telling her. Like owning it. Pride warred with panic in Eric's gut. Owning it, in Chicago, where rainbow flags waved from high-rises. Not here in Milford, where the closest thing to pride was a bake sale for the church roof. And you? How you holding up? Jackson laughed, brittle. Scared shitless. But alive. More than I have in years. Another beat. What about you? You out to anyone? The question landed like a gut punch. Eric thought of his mom, her Bible on the nightstand. The way she'd pat his hand and say, God's got a plan, honey. Or the guys at the shop, ribbing him about batting for the other team as a joke that cut too close. Not yet. Baby steps. Fair. Jackson's tone softened. Hey, I'm coming back next month. Work thing in Columbus. Stay over? Round 2. Eric's breath hitched. Yeah. Doors open. The intervening weeks were torture. A slow burn of anticipation. Eric cleaned the house top to bottom, stocked the fridge with IPAs, even dusted that old guitar and strummed a few chords. Springsteen's Thunder Road. Because Jackson always belted it off-key at bonfires. He told himself it was casual. No strings, but dreams betrayed him. Jackson's laugh echoing in sun-dappled woods, hands intertwined under harvest moons. Stupid romantic, his brain chided, but his heart didn't listen. Jackson arrived on a crisp October evening, leaves crunching under tires like applause. He looked different. Hair cropped shorter, a new tattoo peeking from his cuff, some Celtic knot that screamed midlife reinvention. The hug lasted too long, bodies aligning in memory, and over burgers at the Roadhouse, talk flowed freer. Jackson's therapy sessions? Yeah, I know. Bro on a couch. Eric's side hustle restoring vintage Harleys. Dream gig, man. Freedom on 2 wheels. Back home, wine replaced beer. Bold California red that loosened tongues and inhibitions. They ended up on the living room rug, vinyl spinning Dylan's blood on the tracks, clothes shedding like autumn skins. This time was slower, exploratory. Jackson tracing Eric's collarbone with reverent fingers, Eric whispering vulnerabilities into the hollow of Jackson's throat. I loved you first, Eric confessed, voice muffled against skin. Before I knew what it meant. Jackson stilled, then pulled him closer. I know. I felt it. Just took me forever to catch up. They made love like mendicants, desperate and divine. The world outside forgotten in the sacrament of touch. Morning brought clarity and conflict. Over coffee, Jackson fiddled with his mug, eyes on the steam. So this thing we're doing, it's real, right? Not just blowing off steam. Eric's stomach nodded. What are you asking? I want more. Weekends in the city, maybe you crash at my place. Hell, move up here eventually. We could build something. His grin was hopeful, boyish. Partners. Boyfriends. Whatever the kids call it these days. The word hung, sparkling and terrifying. Eric imagined it. Skyline views, brunch spots with bottomless mimosas, hands held in Wrigleyville without side eye. But Milford tugged. The garage his dad's legacy, mom's Sunday suppers, the soil that knew his name. I don't know. It's fast. Jackson's face fell, but he nodded. Think on it. No pressure. They parted with a kiss that tasted like futures, Jackson's truck vanishing into the fog-shrouded dawn. Eric threw himself into work, but doubt festered. Late nights, he paced the empty house, phone glowing with articles on long-distance queer love, success stories laced with heartbreak. What if Jackson bolted when the novelty wore off? What if Milford's whispers turned to shouts? The betrayal came subtle, a drip before the flood. A mutual friend's text, heard Jax is bringing someone to the reunion. That chick from accounting? Eric's blood ran cold. He drove to the diner, hands white-knuckled on the wheel, and cornered Tommy Klein, Sarah's brother, still slinging hash browns after a decade. Spill it. Tommy shrugged, wiping the counter. Jackson? Yeah, posted on Insta last week. Some redhead all smiles at a gala. Caption. Date night with the future Mrs. Reed. Thought you knew, man. The world tilted, betrayal sharp as shattered glass. Eric stumbled home. Texts unread. Voicemail from Jackson buzzing like wasps. Miss you already. Call me. He didn't. Instead, He drank Jack Daniels from Dad's cabinet, straight from the bottle, until the room spun and memories blurred into rage. The high came crashing down in a torrent of voicemails and missed calls, Jackson's pleas escalating from casual check-ins to raw desperation. Eric? What the hell? Talk to me. Eric deleted them all, screen blurring through hot tears, the betrayal a knife twisting deeper with each replay in his mind. That redhead, future Mrs. Reed, wasn't just a slip. It was erasure. Their nights reduced to a footnote in Jackson's straight-passing narrative. Eric saw it clear now. The therapy confessions, the testing waters, all performative. A phase to spice up the straight life before settling into heteronormative bliss. He'd been the experiment, the small-town detour. November frost bit the air, turning Milford into a postcard of isolation. Bare branches clawing at slate skies, the garage heater sputtering against the chill. Eric worked doubles, hands black with grime, ignoring Mom's worried glances when she dropped off chili on Tuesdays. You look peaky, hon. That boy from Chicago stirring trouble? She meant well, her faith a shield against the world's cruelties. But Eric couldn't burden her with this. Not yet. The breaking point arrived unannounced, Jackson's truck barreling up Elm Street on a sleety afternoon, wipers slashing like accusations. Eric spotted it from the shop window, mid-oil change on Widow Jenkins' Chevy, and his gut clenched. No escape. He wiped his hands on a rag, steeling himself as the door chime jangled. Jackson stormed in, cheeks ruddy from wind, eyes wild under the fluorescent glare. We need to talk. Now. Hargrove raised an eyebrow from the counter but busied himself with invoices. Small-town code for mind your own. Eric jerked his head toward the back lot, gravel crunching under boots as they faced off beside a stack of snow tires. What do you want, Jax? Come to gloat about your fiancé. Jackson recoiled, face paling. Fiancé? What the fuck are you? Oh shit. The Post. Eric, that was PR bullshit. Company event, they made me pose with her for the newsletter. She's straight as I am, it's nothing. Nothing? Eric's voice cracked, fists balled at his sides. You drop future Mrs. like it's a joke? After everything. Because I panicked. Jackson exploded, stepping closer, breath fogging the air. My boss is this old-school prick. Thinks I'm unsettled since the breakup. I played along to shut him up. But you're everything. I've been calling therapists, coming out to my sister. Quietly, yeah. But it's real. I'm done hiding. Eric laughed, bitter and broken. Hiding. That's rich. You swan in, upend my world. Then jet back to your high-rise pretending it's casual. I'm not your vacation fling, Jackson. I've loved you since we were kids stealing smokes from your dad's pack. This town, it'll chew me up if I admit it. But you get to dip a toe and retreat. Jackson's eyes glistened, hands raking through his hair. I know. God, I know I fucked up. But I'm here, aren't I? Quit my job last week. Too toxic. Too fake. Thinking of coming home. Fixing up the old Reed place. With you. If you'll have me. The offer hung a lifeline or a noose. Eric searched his face. The earnest plea, the scar that mapped their history, and felt the storm inside mirror the one brewing overhead. Sleet turned to snow, fat flakes melting on lashes. Prove it, Eric whispered, voice raw. Stay. Fight for this. For us. Jackson nodded. Fierce. I will. Every damn day. They didn't resolve it there, in the cold bite of the lot. Too much scar tissue, too many what-ifs. But Jackson checked into the motel on Route 23, not leaving till they talked it through. Over diner pie at midnight, words spilling like confessions in a confessional. Jackson admitted the fear, family legacy of stoic farmers, the internalized shame from locker room taunts. Eric bared his own. The grinder ghosts, the prayer vigils Mom dragged him to after Dad died, hoping to fix his wandering eye. Healing wasn't linear. Jackson's visits stretched into weeks. The motel swapped for Eric's couch. Then the bed. They navigated minefields. Jackson's awkward coming-out call to his mom, met with stunned silence and a mailed Bible. Eric's first tentative admission to Tommy at the Roadhouse, greeted with a gruff "'bout time, Harper. Beer's on me." Small victories, laced with setbacks. A homophobic slur scrawled on the garage door, anonymous and venomous, that had Jackson raging and Eric scrubbing till his knuckles bled. Christmas loomed, twinkling lights strung along Main Street like fragile hope. They drove to Cleveland for a quiet holiday, Eric's first out of Milford since the war draft pulled his granddad away. The city pulsed with anonymity. Hands clasped in public, a drag brunch where Jackson hooped louder than anyone, mimosas flowing like absolution. In their hotel room, overlooking the lit Cuyahoga, they made plans. Jackson apprenticing at the garage, Eric eyeing a custom bike shop downtown. "We build it together," Jackson murmured, fingers laced with Eric's. No more running. But doubt lingered, a shadow at the feast. New Year's Eve, back home, they hosted a bonfire. Tommy and a few trusted faces, s'mores and stories under stars. Jackson pulled Eric aside midway, face grave. "Got an offer. Headhunter from Philly. Better pay, queer-friendly firm. What if?" Eric's heart stuttered. "What if we try long distance? Prove it's not just nostalgia." Jackson searched his eyes, then crushed him in a hug. "Nah, we're endgame. Milford or bust." The clock struck 12, fireworks blooming over the fields, and as lips met in the new year, Eric believed it. Fiercely, foolishly. Spring thawed Milford's bones, dogwoods blooming pink against the greening fields. A resurrection Eric clung to like gospel. Jackson made good on promises. Papers filed for the Reed homestead. A contractor's bid for updates that screamed permanence. Rainbow flag fluttering from the porch rail. A workshop out back for Eric's Harleys. They fell into domesticity, tentative and tender. Mornings with coffee black and kisses lazy. Evenings tangled on the couch watching Schitt's Creek marathons. Laughing at the absurdity of small-town queers finding their way. Yet the past wasn't done clawing back. It arrived in a FedEx envelope, innocuous till opened. A wedding invitation, embossed gold, from Lisa to Jackson. Join us in Napa, June 15th. Love, L and M. M for Mike, her new beau. A tech bro from Silicon Valley, per the enclosed note. Heard you're finally out. Good for you. Don't ghost the ceremony. Open bar. Jackson crumpled it, jaw tight. Bitch move. Rubbing it in. Eric pried it from his fist, smoothing the creases. Or closure. Go. Show her you're thriving. The fight brewed slow, simmering over dinners turned silent. Jackson stewed, pride wounded. Eric pushed, urging grace. "We're better than grudges," he'd say, but inside, fear gnawed. What if Napa's vineyards whispered doubts, pulled Jackson back to the straight world's ease? The night before the flight, tension snapped. They'd argued over packing, Eric folding shirts with military precision, Jackson pacing like a caged wolf. "You think I want to go? Parade our life for her pity party. Then don't." Eric shot back, voice rising. "But hiding? That's what broke us before." Jackson whirled, eyes flashing. "Broke us? You mean when you iced me out, convinced I was playing you? I drove through a blizzard for that, Eric. Bared my soul. And I trusted you." Eric's chest heaved, tears hot. Then saw the post, felt like a fool. Again. If this is gonna work, we face the ghosts. Together. Silence stretched, taut as wire. Then Jackson deflated, pulling Eric into a crushing embrace. "You're right. Always are." They made up fiercely. Bodies a battlefield of forgiveness. Whispers of "I'm sorry" blending with moans till dawn. Napa was a blur Jackson recounted in postcards. Sun-drenched hills, Lisa's awkward toast, to unexpected paths, and a quiet vineyard walk where he scattered doubts like petals. He returned sunburned and serene, ringless finger glinting in the kitchen light. "Told her about you, the real you, us." Eric's throat tightened. "And she hugged me, said she knew deep down. We're good." Summer deepened their roots. The garage thrived under dual stewardship. Jackson's sales savvy booking custom jobs. Eric's hands coaxing life from rusted frames. They joined a queer hiking group in Columbus, tentative steps into community. Trail mix shared with a couple from Akron, stories swapped around campfires about first loves lost to denial. Eric opened up to Mom over peach cobbler one Sunday, words tumbling, "I'm gay, Ma, and happy." With Jackson. She stilled, fork midway to mouth, then reached across, hand warm on his. "Knew you were special, baby. God loves all his children. Fiercest the broken ones." Tears fell, hers and his, but the hug was steel. Acceptance forged in faith's quiet fire. The climax crested Labor Day weekend. Milford's Fair in full swing. Carnival lights flickering against twilight. Ferris wheel groans mingling with fiddle tunes. Jackson had planned it. A booth for their new venture, Harper Reed Restorations, gleaming bikes on display. But the real show was him. Down on one knee amid hay bales and funnel cake grease. Ring simple silver with an engraved knot. Endgame. Eric Harper, he said, voice steady over the crowd's hush. You've been my anchor since scraped knees and creek swims. Marry me? Build this life? Storms and all. Eric's world narrowed to that face. Crooked grin, eyes like home, and the yes burst free, raw and joyous. Cheers erupted. Tommy whooping loudest. Mom dabbing eyes from the sidelines. They kissed under exploding fireworks. The fair a kaleidoscope of color. And in that moment, betrayal's scars faded to silver threads, woven into strength. Years later, they'd tell the story to their adopted son. A wiry kid from the foster system with Jackson's laugh and Eric's green eyes. How a storm-soaked night cracked them open. How love wasn't linear but a road trip. Detours, breakdowns, sunsets that made it worth the miles. Milford evolved slow, pride flags dotting porches by then, but they led the charge. Hands held at VFW meetings, a garage that mentored queer youth in trades. Human, flawed, unbreakable. Because some nights change everything, not by shattering, but by mending what was always whole.